So to all of you who have come here tonight, I would like to make my wishes of auspicious good fortune with a mind of joy and happiness. So there are a number of us gathered here tonight, some who understand the sublime teachings of the Buddha, the transcendent conqueror, others who do not. There are people here who I know very well, I know your names, others who I don't know, yet among all of you and among all sentient beings, there is not one who has not been my kind mother or father in countless former lifetimes. And because of this, I make no distinction among sentient beings. All beings, without exception, have the potential of reaching the state of fully enlightened Buddhahood, and recognizing that, there is no distinction to be made. I have a mind of loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings, and it is important then to understand that all beings have this essence that is Buddha nature. Recognizing that, we can have love for all without distinction. So in general, among all of the different kinds of beings of the three spheres of existence, and in particular among we human beings, there is no one who wishes to experience suffering. In fact, all beings wish to have happiness and be free of suffering. And we all engage in different kinds of effort to experience happiness. We should understand that all happiness and joy are dependent upon the two types of knowledge. And all suffering is a result of ignorance or unawareness.
Tini shirab nila tene da uzo riba ga tini jiptin dala pimpa ta deve tap tini drip tini chiri bena tena ta tanjambile be mitsama ya tini teta pimpa ta deva jo te shirab la tene uzo riba ga tini jiptin di deva drip kuyo re tini da zambili chirok khashe na tini o jiptin de jipa mayin ba tini che samado che de sima iga samlo tangne tini jewa ngapsela samlo tangne tini churok khashe tini da o da sama iga pimpa da dewa go du sa tini ge yang thonggu yo re.
With regard to these two types of knowledge, there is both worldly knowledge and transcendent knowledge. We should understand that all of the happiness and benefit to be experienced in this worldly realm comes from just this kind of knowledge. And if we look at transcendent knowledge, then we turn to the various spiritual traditions which provide the causes of happiness not only in this lifetime, but in future lifetimes as well.
Tini da nangba ge sangje chomdi de da chula zegna tanga so da ge dewa da dongyen de be na chen din be tung chi bo ma tu ba tini ngama chije da de lu la tu sung de be na ji wa ha le ji be thok do be na de la tin de dok la ma me ba tini de be jo drip jang tini de la dewa manjongwa jorwi dumai dewa dungile njorwa ta dungile ma de pa de so sanje chomde de.
But according to the view of the followers of the Buddha, the transcendent conqueror, it is not sufficient for us to pursue the happiness of this life alone. We see that all of the happiness and suffering that we experience in this present life are the result of our former actions. This is the basic teaching on karma, causes and conditions. So according to the teachings of the Transcendent Conqueror, we should engage in the practice of virtue in order to create the causes for future happiness and to purify negative actions accumulated in the past. Likewise, we should avoid negative actions in order to become free of future suffering. When we fully understand the workings of karma, then we will see that we have no ability to influence our present situation. That is to say, all of our present situation has been conditioned by actions of the past. This was taught by the Buddha himself.
사운드랑 세미토는도 없어. 생문나래. 레짐베지 바데 강인들은 배나 방마 사운드는 세미토는도 되나. 요 강이만 난 세미토거든이 대도가 사운드 사고 마시나. 되니 다다 첸들 대화가 저 접장. 되니 대외 저 마터바. 그런 거 배도 같이 제나야. 대화 저 마터바.
Likewise, the Buddha taught that even though we may experience happiness in this worldly realm, it is always subject to change. It is transient in nature. Because of this, then, the Buddha taught that existence anywhere in the six realms is the very nature of suffering. Now, with regard to the two types of knowledge, then all worldly knowledge is on an outer level. It is dependent on worldly endeavor and education, and so forth. And although there is much benefit to be derived from this, when we look at the teachings of the Buddha, this is on an inner level, or the level of the mind itself. If we truly wish to engage in practice according to our understanding of karma, cause, and effect, first and foremost we should look at the mind itself, because it is in the mind where the seeds of virtue and negativity are planted. That is to say, it is in the mind where the causes of happiness and suffering are created.
Tini jo nyu mongpa tini lesa le de bakcha yane tini di bakcha den korni kami tini da pen rawang mebi goni tini donghen da ban to telen chung do so na dong re ba de.
With regard to the inner awareness wisdom that comes from the investigation of the mind, the Buddha taught that all suffering comes from the very root of not seeing the mind's nature. And because of ignorance of the nature of mind, we give rise to various negative emotions. And on the basis of these negative emotions, we create karma, or that is to say, we engage in actions of body and speech. And on the basis of these actions, we create karmic propensities, or the habit to act in a certain way. In this way, then, we don't have a great deal of control at the present time over the sufferings and happinesses that we experience.
Mare pachi pai kare ta da je dandin de la songdo donghe thamche donghe mari dab de do le song da ji ba da me pa la da do song le ngune gen de thong thang pa de ma thong thong na da ji ba te o sen nu ji ji de da de yang pe na me ta pa na ji ri nang ju ji sim ji thamche lu phong bo la te na kang pe na Upote dala, then he deep the ripena, Takpata, Timbaki, marriage, then he now semi the Chotana, young penna, semi the penna, Namkana, he shena, that is on penna. There don't number them,
all suffering without exception is the result, then, of ignorance. And this ignorance is self-clinging. It is fixating upon the I. When we have a habit, then, of fixating upon that which is inherently selfless as being real, then all suffering naturally results. Yet, we should understand that on a relative level, the outer container, that is the physical universe, is the very nature of impermanence. Every external phenomenon is subject to change. Likewise, all inner phenomena, that is, the beings in this universe, are not real, not permanent, not inherently existent. We too are subject to change. When we truly recognize the inner and outer aspects of impermanence, then we create a foundation for recognizing the nature of mind. This, then, is understanding of the ultimate truth.
Dinero 시장 될 공비 연령만 손으로 되는 통카보래서 대 강연은 코와 토만 되니 종대더니 고 저점 매발에 다 코와 토만 매발에 다 받아 다 되더니 배 카와 빠빠는 게 세비 돌아 되니 통주매 배들이 박차 기바더니 싸서면 하장 톡체라더니 통하고 열에 촉상 통하야더니 이제 라왕 못 잡아 빼는 거 지광지 소로 라왕 매바들이 차도서
If we want to recognize selflessness in our own mind streams, this is very difficult to do unless we habituate it for a long period of time. We should understand that since time without beginning, we have accumulated a karmic propensity to fixate on the I or the self as being real. And this propensity over time has continued to accumulate like snowflakes falling. Eventually, it becomes an extremely thick obscuration in our minds. And so even though we are able to catch glimpses of the nature of mind, we don't have the power to sustain these glimpses for any length of time.
number drog 되거든요. 동해 number drog 적인 감에 동해 탐지 철 노르드나 동해 number drog 차야 돼. 드니들은 로아 drog 멘다. 드니 다지 동해디 이제 송요래.
So when we have an understanding of the workings of karmic causality, we can see that on the basis of self-clinging, that is ignorance, we give rise to various kinds of negative emotions. These habituate, or I should say these perpetuate 6 different types of suffering. Now, because of this, then, we speak of rebirth in the 6 realms of existence. But we should understand this to mean the experience of the suffering that is the fruition of the 6 principal negative emotions in the mind.
핀반 매만다 베데 카차오라더니 용거 요리데 이나양디 문에 동에 매바르동 걸래 당호 동에 ram이 마시나 빼나 저기 동에 매바르동 trouble 말이 될 때나 동에디 ram이 시 되는 정랑 제래 되는 동에데 자와 강리송 되나 되는 호를 쳤다 오 빼나 냐와게 동에서 강리송 교세당리송 돼 냐와지가 가까이 와 말이야 다다 이제 감 되나 빼나 차당의 동에 용구요래. 야, 동에 나봐도 돼. 뜨거운 물 본게 동에 용구요래. 탑쪽의 동에 용구요래. 무슨 세마 때는 이제 가면 이제 딱 깨다. 동에 차창하던 이제 미견은 다 용도 용지만 무슨 통당 통지만 이제 제라 이치 맞게 되래. 되는 뭐 하시고 줄록하게 냐와요 듯이 해요. 거꾸로 해야 돼. 가가도 돼. 되게 말이지. 눈에 전에 그것도 떠먹고 깨자리 마도도 집에 주로 서당 쓰여 봐. 동행 통이 되게 온 거요래. 뒤등이 코주 동행만 통과돼 가래. 나한테 제 나랑은 거 서로 동행에서 마음을 진짜 동행에서 와는 통고요 말이야. 되게 다 떠먹고 쳐. 니마 찍을 거서 서쪽으로 동행에 들래. 다 동행에 매제 버래. 배 하래가 요래. 출력하게 동해는 맞아 속요래. 동해가 자와 강리소 유모발에 송. 감성 샘진의 동해 됐다고 여상 코가 동해가라기 신기요래. 뒤가면 소설로 동해서나 연다 인인데 코가 동해가라기 이서 하래야 요 말이야. 출력 받던지. 뒤 반들이 출력 시 마시가 빨라 동해 최종당 마토마들이 요래.
So, when Shakyamuni Buddha first attained enlightenment, he taught... I should speak a little louder. Thank you. So when the Buddha first attained enlightenment, he taught the noble truth of suffering. Now that is to say that all of our experiences in this worldly realm, or in samsara, are the nature of suffering. Now there will be others of other traditions who say that this kind of teaching is not of that great of a benefit. And it is true that it's difficult to hear these teachings on the nature of suffering. It is bitter to listen to them. Yet, if we don't understand the nature of suffering, then we will not have the capability of overcoming suffering. If, on the other hand, we know and understand the nature of suffering, a fear of suffering will naturally arise in our mind stream. And on the basis of this fear, then we will seek to overcome and purify the causes of suffering. Now, we speak in the Buddhist tradition of the hell realm and the hungry ghost realm, but it isn't really necessary to think of these as separate places. Rather, we can look at our own experience in this human realm and see the sufferings of all of the 6 realms. There are people who are undergoing extremes of suffering as a result of heat and cold, hunger and thirst, war and fighting, and so forth. In this way, simply through observing our own human experience, we can come to an understanding of the 6 realms of existence. If then we have this kind of understanding, we give rise to wisdom in our own minds. We give rise to faith and understanding of the Dharma teachings. There will be those who say, well, you speak so much about the hell realm, but I can't see it. Where is it? I doubt that it exists at all. This kind of thought comes from a mind of real ignorance and obscuration. If we become so focused on ourselves, we can only see our own experience of suffering. When, on the other hand, we focus on others, we begin to realize their suffering as well. This opens our eyes. It clears away the darkness of ignorance. If we lack this kind of awareness, then as soon as we experience suffering, we think that that suffering is utterly unbearable. It is for this reason, then, that we make effort to study suffering as the basis or the foundation of our Buddhist practice. And then, having understood the nature of suffering, when we look at other worldly phenomena and we see other people suffering, it isn't a surprise to us. We're aware that this is the very nature of cyclic existence.
Tena pena ta jikti khane chulogla lamramba mangbo songgo yore lamramba mangbo songgo yore tinani ina yang thoma pena ko jikti khamke muju meluje thobona 당부 축 기와죠 냠서 랑 기와죠 시바도 냠서 랑고도 뒤따와데 기와죠 따와 강리 송도 제가 변나 잠바당 인지를 쓴 거예요. 먹게 와죠 빵고도 좀 사제 좀 되게 다리 동에 시발사 꿈종 방화사 송게 꿈종 가래야 되나 설레가도 제용은 변나 레가들 루당 마가 레가 제거요데 제행보대 가래래 생문을 요래다 저 되나 생문을 꿈종 방화서 생문을 레가 제행보대 모시고래 서로링이 멤버세데 내가 자야나 너니 세당대 요되나 오 내가 문제돼 오 세당원에 변 사운사가 나는 요네 요거 제한 거가 되는 꿈종대 변나 선이 첨송겼다 나니 쌈노대 변나 뭐죠 대조래서
So in this worldly realm, there is much that we can study in the different religious traditions. From the Buddhist perspective, if we truly wish to attain a human birth, It is necessary to practice the 10 virtues and abandon the 10 non-virtuous actions. Now, we should understand that this human birth is only attained as a result of the accumulation of merit. And how or where this merit comes from is a mind of loving kindness and compassion. By cultivating this, then we naturally abandon negative actions. So, actions are accumulated through the body and the speech, but we should understand that the real doer of all actions is the mind itself. It is from the mind that all other actions arise. So, for example, if we have the seed of anger in our mind stream, and we don't seek to purify that anger, then naturally that seed will grow into a sprout and will eventually become strong and bear fruit. So among the two types of discipline that we can engage in, that of outer conduct and that of disciplining the mind, the latter is far more important.
즉 무슨나 배나 해당 따위나 해당 집보라 되니 유모가 낭낭아 창용고요 배나 해당 것도 차요래 해당 것 차도요래 해당 것 나제요래 야 대상제 교육이 맞춰가지고 띠목을 배나 좀 말해봐 잡보다가 되니 유모가 이다 담이 르모다가 자 들이 차대요래 배나 제는 시랍이나 또 잡보티 시랍지들이나 롱봉이 바탕에 라왕면고 말을 잠합동 틈께가 빼나 대는 제 담보소 시랍이고 거래 시랍이고 바탕에 뺀다다 이제 감게 남과 사집에 시랍 맨나라 이제 대 시랍이고나 빼라 미카체 되나 지야 엄마야 연디요와 시랍이요와 다다야 연디로 장문 담아면 덕점성 자카블 상대셔 몇대는 제와 요르가 시랍과 가르니로와 하나 시랍 매와다가 먹이 쫓대 코주 듣고 요래 대dum이 코주 등에 요고 요래 대는 말에 빠데다 하장 들이대래 등에 저래 삼이상 못한 거래 말에 빠데 빼라 네 왕도 마셔봐 제거래
So we should first and foremost recognize non-virtue as the very cause of suffering, and this non-virtue comes from negative emotions. So in some systems we count 6 negative emotions, in others we count 5, but within each principal negative emotion, such as anger, all of the others are complete. Within anger, we have desire, we have jealousy and pride, and so forth. So each one perpetuates all of the others. If we fail to recognize the fault of our negative emotions, that itself is ignorance or unawareness. If, on the other hand, we cultivate wisdom, then we clearly see the faults of our negative actions and seek to purify them. So first and foremost, we should cultivate this kind of wisdom. Even if we lack transcendent wisdom at this time, we can still cultivate worldly wisdom. There are many people who have this accumulation of worldly wisdom. They have many qualities, they've received a good education, they naturally avoid drink and drugs and so forth. And they abide by the laws of the country. These are all signs of their accumulation of merit and their worldly wisdom. And so it's very important then that we seek not to fall under the power of ignorance.
상계 기바데 가래래 되나 상계 기바데 공윤이 되나 다 매니 인핑을 놓지 보래 그 인빙을 오치고 인빙을 오도 원래 심지 적 많이 봐 감슴 심지 탐지 배나 라고 번하기 온 통고요래지 때 가이는 통고요래 당소 코와 토마메 반데 다 봐도 루장메 발랑나 다 파마마지 봐 적장메 봐 다때 문이 장내르가 대다운 통에 대다를 상호 다통다나 다 미설아양 빼놓고 원래 콘트롤지에 요리요 말이야 원래 문이 장내 된적 같은 게 되라도 내로 같은 게 되나 당고 소야다 다 축가야 무시용 이 방향 매제 신기 소통나 다 소시 동에 꼭 탐매 발이마도 파마 제요리 섬을 로고 된지가 안 배받아다 하고도 대제야요 말 피다야요 말했잖아 뭐라면가 야야 마도 저쪽에 심지 동에 배는 어떻게 말가 뭐 맞잖아요 파마 예 제요가 싫은 무슨 소자 동에 기잖아 눈에 전에 파마 제요리 섬을 로고 하고도 배나
The text, the 37 Bodhisattva practices, states the perfect Buddhas, the source of benefit and happiness, arise from accomplishing others' welfare. Whenever we truly seek to experience happiness, then we turn away from focusing on our own needs and instead engage in activities benefiting others. And we don't seek to benefit just a few, but rather all sentient beings of the three spheres of existence without exception. We view them all as kind parents or as our only children, thinking again and again that since time without beginning, I have taken countless rebirths, and in these rebirths, at one time or another, every being has been my kind mother or father. Thus, I have a great connection with all of them. When we think in this way, then there's no longer any basis for us to give rise to anger towards any sentient being. We see beings whose minds are deluded by ignorance, who have no understanding of proper conduct, but instead of becoming angry, we give rise to a mind of great compassion for them. And this compassion can become so stable that it is changeless. If we don't think in this way of our intimate connection with all sentient beings, then we have no basis for giving rise to an authentic and impartial mind of compassion. Thus, again and again, we should contemplate that beings have been our kind parents, and again think of the sufferings that they experience in order to give rise to a mind of compassion. We can see this in observing other human beings as well as insects and animals.
대나 변하다 다 남바 사제에 따와도 맹다게 요리 대 사제 맹다니의 사제 좀 디디리 마도서베 감숨 심진 담실에 대비 줘티 사제 온테 대비 줘도 맹다게 사제의 일 키우고 말아 오 대는 남바 이 코남바 맹 들이 자와니 말이 술라 등이 먹고나 술 등이를 돌고나 오래 사죽생도 답고 잡나 누구를 그저 제래 제 가래래 가와요래 되는 별라 오 다다다 생기는 게 마당 보인 듯이 마당 보이니까 마들 뛴 듯이 돼요래 별라 몰래 제와래 조기다가 제와 쏜 거요라 제와 되나 별라 다다다 가리니 봐 가리요래 콩을 다다 산지게 연디지는 별라 바로도 봐 족쏜 거요래 사축 생태 이비지 노버다 유이스 적디 적 감저 노버탐 적 공유하자 되니 사축 생태 용디 아인당 그 말에서 배나 사축 생태 용디 찾겠다는 거 말해 되는 니마 어체야 사축 생태 원래더니 리야로 말해 리들요 말해 송사지게 송노래 배나 되는 사축 생태 우주라 심지 답이 여자 여기만 총총히 여래 마당 부유반나 여래 pen nedo jiga sawen da re rodo jiga sawen da yina te sawen jiga na te salan juma mangbo chaya yore rama saje yo ba yin a ji tama long jue ji yo ba de ye ti nedo je kan phang jan de kan yo ma ba pen te nang ji de te ma ji ba ji we ta ji wa ma nya ta da sang ji jong ji de so ni ma de ji wa de sama sim ji tam ji le yore ji pen na.
So, according to the Buddhist view, all sentient beings of the three spheres of existence possess the very cause of happiness. They all, without exception, have the Buddha nature or the enlightened potential that is inherent in the mind. If we understand this, then we won't give rise to a sense, well, I'm a Buddhist and that person is a non-Buddhist. That thought will not even arise in our mind stream. Rather, we will recognize this enlightened potential that abides in every being that we meet. We are all the same, regardless of our belief systems. We're all the same in desiring happiness and wishing to be free from suffering. And it is for this reason, then, that the Buddhas, in their compassion and skill, taught that we should contemplate all sentient beings as having been our kind parents. All beings have love in their hearts, but they have it only to some small degree. We see that parents naturally have great love for their children. And so we use this as a basis for cultivating an impartial love that extends towards all beings without exception. We contemplate well the qualities of bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment, and we see that we too can give rise to these qualities because of the Buddha nature that is inherent in our mind streams, if we simply engage in the practice of the six perfections. Practicing in this way, then, we recognize that bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment, is like a wish-fulfilling jewel. If we have a small seed and we plant it in the ground and we cultivate it and care for it, it bears much fruit that benefits others and ourselves as well. The same is true if we, through the practice of the six perfections, cultivate the enlightened potential that is inherent in our minds. For this reason, then, the Buddhas taught how to give rise to bodhicitta, and once having given rise to bodhicitta, how to protect it and keep it from declining and cause it to ever increase.
Belna tata nyumba chuna maso chami samlo tonga cheli bene jakab pana shedang maje chado la tini dongye kandi nyumdo mangla tin jongje ji tawa kangla thok o tata ngasi nyune chokta yoandere o detawa sosola do shedang do chado do maje do chaya do ti chungine matsawani ole ta yin la no ba tang go sang rang go chong go ni gang ma mang de ba pe na ole phal no ba tang go chal no ba tang go pe na te ta da bu ling ge dong ye de nyu mo ba ji zo do ga ji mi ge so deng jam na ta da dong ye chama me chang ge ge no pe na nyam bo de na dong ye de chama nyu mo be zo do sam ni de ni ba de mu sen ga du mu sen na ta shira be de 아니 좀 참아 그러네 시총만 또 빼나 유무바 그러네 총롱 빼는 성ung 총총는 오대 산지 좀 되게 좀 유무바대 생 아쇼다인 레원나 이래 생 아쇼다인 레원이 총총만 용간나 기메요 말이 고사월로 송도는 뺑 가다만 못 지요 그래 유무바대 이래 소소로 또 제거래
So we should all consider well the fault of negative emotions, such as attachment, anger, ignorance, pride, and jealousy. If we look in our own minds, we can find each and every one of these. And thinking in this way, we should become very clear that all of these negative emotions that are the cause of future suffering are present in my own mind stream right now. And on the basis of these negative emotions, we do harm to others, and having harmed others, we harm ourselves. If we look at all of the suffering in the world today, every suffering without exception comes from negative emotions in the minds of others. The only distinction to be made is how great or how weak, how strong or weak those negative emotions might be. Yet, strong or weak, they are all the cause of suffering. Even in a single family, all of the difficulties and hardships that can be experienced have at their very root negative emotions. So we should cultivate a wisdom that enables us to recognize negative emotions in our own minds. The Buddha, the Transcendent Conqueror, taught how from a tiny seed, a huge tree can grow. And the same is true of our negative emotions. Even if we begin with a very subtle negative emotion, if it goes unchecked, then it becomes more and more powerful and eventually becomes the cause of great suffering.
Ole kangi mambo ji de yinna ya mamang de dewa maung bala leven dewe yoba mamang chotabi yoba tenigen dalam yoba zujal mambo yoba de tamje karele kaptel kangi jewola yang 상계 것들 빠시 빠데 오 또 드리 오늘 배는 저요 상계 시바데 가래를 딱 요래 민망나 피바다 대화 세계 tam제 피바다 대화 상노도니 대 상계 시바 사족sem나 딱 요래 사족sem데 가래리 피셈요바 매 피셈요바 피셈데 그 밀어 대화 접 잡아 접샤 요바 오 때려 사족sembe 줘봐도 시에요라 대 수업 빈바 대화 둘라 나도 때려 이치요래서 가래 피나 민 대사고래 마시화이요 고난바이요 말해 가래 핀거다 소시 몇 따고 그래서 배나 가래 핀거도 산축생계 유디 올래 삼바정 누와 뒤라 네와 거는 네와 수고 두고도 때려 이치 제고래서 동의 수고 두고도 때 동의 싸와 가안도 소소소소게 랑게서 부시라고 딱 됐다네 랑토리 뽕고래서 올래 대라 사제 좀 되게 배나 딱 먹게 좀 빨리 기와 그 기와 그 때 가래를 다 약하고 천데 받을 때는 상거를 해서 배나 취되면 딱 그러면 약하고 천데 올래 사제가 전부는 로고를 해야지.
So we can see when we look at our political leaders how much difficulty and hardship that they undergo in order to ensure the benefit and happiness of the entire nation. Through their efforts, there is peace and stability in the present as well as an excellent future fruition. These positive results come from their beneficial intention. And so we should understand that the essence of what the Buddhas taught is just this kind of mind seeking others' benefit. Rather than getting caught up in a lot of distinctions between teachings of this or that tradition, we should really look for the very heart and the essence of what the Buddha taught. And that is an altruistic intention. When we truly seek to benefit others, then all enlightened conduct naturally arises from that pure motivation. We should investigate with the power of our own wisdom and intelligence what is effective and what is not. We should look at our own experience and see if our altruistic motivation is truly of value or not. We should look and investigate whether or not a positive and pure motivation is endowed with power or not. We should investigate what is the cause of our own experiences of suffering. Where is its root? When we investigate in this way, we can come to a faith and confidence in the validity of the Dharma teachings.
양나 동마 통하고 양물이 이게 양물이 배 가바라 들이 내고나 다들이 그냥 sem부 초박 가리도 따다데 람상 먹는 맥주를 빠빠도 배 생부 동에 담지 줘라 매봐 참체네 배라 들이 용거가 쇠나 들이 요래지 뒤미 찍다 찍어 봐라 미이거 봐라 제와래지 뒤에 따면 니 빠져 이거나 다뒤 치로 동고래서 맞게 빠는 기절직도 당고대 제거래 이봐 년바 매바에 공도 배워서 어디 산지게 따뜻 배 망도 동거래 제 망도 동만 탑 제거래서 내가 전부 뒤차죠 저기 어디 제 무정네 들이대 망도 동거 탑 산지 좀 되게 송어래.
So first we should understand well the qualities of bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment. This mind is like a brilliant light, more powerful than 100,000 suns. At first, we cannot give rise to this powerful mind of enlightenment, but we can give rise to love for sentient beings. And on the basis of that, then we can continue to cultivate it until we truly realize an impartial love for all beings. Now, we should look at our own experience. If we're very sad and experiencing a lot of suffering, then we can benefit so much from the love of another person. It is said that bodhicitta is a brilliant light that is like the sun, but this is a mere example. In fact, the light of bodhicitta cannot be seen with the eye. But if we are experiencing a great deal of suffering, and we go and sit in the sunshine, no matter how long we may sit, the sun cannot dispel that suffering. We'll only get a sunburn. But if we receive a phone call or a letter from someone who is so near and dear to us, in that moment, our suffering is dispelled by the power of the love of our companion. In this way, then we can see from our own experience the incredible power of loving kindness. Even when we see the face of a beloved friend, tears will come to our eyes, and whatever unbearable suffering we may have been experiencing is alleviated. When we recognize the power of loving kindness through our own experience, then that power becomes the basis for what we are to practice. We can cause that power to be increased through our practice. It is the various methods then for first recognizing and giving rise to this mind of love, and then causing it to increase, that were taught by the Buddhas.
차당 이게 중제 하고 요래 다 상조선비 용定하고 요래 배나 대하고서는 다 윤제 시바데 저데 다 가와 되겠죠 선을 같이 사는 저들은 그 세비되는 다 대대 요래 배나 세비되는 대대 요바지 단지 좀 되지 그 철네 오 땅에서 남배 초사 럽장들 로망볼 고마 잡는 주제가 다 가르치려 말 통해 남의 밑에 참 가르치면도 세비나니 초사이 발 가르래 만남 바다냐 베셈지 담지 파마이 되담지 동에선 빼 제와치 몰래 돼요래 저바 장데 가르래 오 다지바 차당 모르는데 당근에 종래 차당도 큐리 매와 원래 미래 공통가 지매와 다들 다 사운으로 사운 잡마 차대 요래 뒤제와데 지와 체랍 근데 다 커지 요래 뉴모 받으면 지와 체랍도 되 크도 요래 사기 좀 되게 잡을려는 너로 탐지해라 강양 말해서 지와 커지요 그래서 지와 체랍만 보라 별이 주로 이다가 선거도가 오 이제 감도 강탐지 빈바요 말해서 이제 바닥에는 제거돼 그거래 이제 바닥에는 제거 가지고 통야요 말해 오 생을 단지면서 앞에나 비디다 다 상축선도 쌓이고 초쌓이고 봐 제와 쌓여요래 이제 바장들에 유모바 바장이요래 다 들이제요래 되는 제거 가요래 마음바라 다 샘도 욕심으로 샘도 없지 오 가지고는 만남 가닥에 샘지 담지 피도 오고 상이 로세 달랩디요래 통하요 말이야 연하양 되게 내가 가르쳐야 오 상계도 매를 따니 말해 그거니 롱거 들고 상계 고스 그 위에 이제 띵하고 핀바다 대화 참아 상계를 듣고 요래 배나 주로 가시에서 흘라가 제게 요래서 제가 흘라가 제게를 맞지는 그거 말과 참에 마시라 말이야 흘라가 제게 요래 나서 네와 흘라가 제게 요래 흘라가 저거 요래 이제 띵하면 너희 요래 가래 상계가 뭐한 것도 없고 랑송랑 쇼크 빼나 오래 상계들이 제와라 제가 그 핀바 대와 빼나 라쇼크 다 연구 요래
So first we should view the faults of our negative emotions such as attachment and aversion and ignorance. Likewise, we should contemplate the benefits of bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment. Now, having done that, then we should investigate karma, or the workings of causes and their results. If we ask, where is the cause of happiness and suffering? It abides in the mind itself. For this reason, the Buddha taught that we should accumulate virtue and abandon negative actions. But what this really means is that when we contemplate well that all sentient beings have been our kind parents, and that because of ignorance they are continuing to create the causes of suffering, immediately we give rise to a mind of loving kindness. When the Buddha spoke of accumulating merit, what he was really referring to is giving rise to and cultivating this mind of loving kindness. Likewise, when the Buddha spoke of avoiding negative actions, then what he was really referring to is purifying the negative emotions in our own minds. When we realize that these negativities are the cause of all sufferings of others and ourselves, then naturally we will seek to avoid that negativity. And by doing so, we purify the negativity we have accumulated in countless former lives. Now, there will be those who are critical of these teachings of karma, cause, and effect. Those who say, well, if we engage in virtuous actions such as the practice of generosity, although you say there's a positive result, I don't see any result. There is no immediate benefit that I can recognize. Yet in fact there is an immediate benefit. When we practice generosity, immediately our habit of self-clinging is diminished. In this way, if we truly investigate, we can see that all virtuous practice and all abandonment of negativity has both a temporary and a long-term fruition. So, the accumulation of merit refers to the generation and cultivation of love. The purification of negativity refers to the abandonment of negative emotions. And the ultimate fruition of this kind of practice will be that the mind becomes strong and stable, and we will think, whatever happens to me, it doesn't matter. I must engage in accomplishing others' benefit and happiness. And in this way, then, we will engage our body, speech, and mind in work benefiting sentient beings. It is through this kind of activity that the fruition of the three kayas, or the three bodies of the Buddhas, are achieved. We can see that all of the benefit and happiness that's experienced in this worldly realm is due to the kindness of the Buddhas. That is to say, that through the power of the aspiration prayers made by the Buddhas, we experience the pleasure of life in this human realm. The earth, the sunlight, fruits, flowers, and so on, all come through the aspiration prayers made by the enlightened ones. And so in this way, when we give rise to a mind of altruism, seeking to benefit others, we too are establishing the causes for sentient beings' benefit and happiness.
Cuba Paradise Batro, Nabe Mentakore. They can't be something cook around, been a method in the Drunkenanki Bena, Yamano, Ernanki, Ranshokore. Tell us some of you, Tang, oh, calling you didn't Ranshokore. Tell a Paradise Batro, the Kadi Chango Bena, Tena, Thomas Shirable, oh, Ranka similar, Ranka Taketan, oh, you did some. Junanage 700, Yontirage 700, the Tama Zogo, the Toma, or Raju Saji Mato, Matung, the Dambe, oh, that Ransem Rangaton, the Shap Tamjet, the Shap Chore, take a tail, Tamu, Toma Shirable, oh, you know what of the Juyimba, Zewa the Yuntimba, the Samuel Tani, that Zewa Yuna, Bena, Mijigla, Zewa the Yuna, Zewa you Metela. Oh, she wrote Yakari Dragon, Senayo Maravat, Gimbaravat. Tell a new button to Maravat. That's a term Ravat. Oh, tell a chick is on a Tito dollar Kangi Jabonanda, take a chick dramatic until Zuba gone to Ravat. Zuba. Oh, tell a pin of a chiller pinnacle, Kangi Karajakan pay Jatapa, the Zulu. Two tapa, the draws on boy, somebody theatre, Junche me by Yerity, something right. Oh, she don't go to the parasol of Tata, Rancho, Chang good. She did some woman, Theatre, you know, without it. And this song go.
So we should contemplate well the qualities of bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment. This mind of enlightenment is brilliant like the sun. The qualities of the mind of enlightenment are naturally, effortlessly, and spontaneously arisen. Just as the sun naturally gives rise to rays, or a flower naturally gives rise to nectar. So if we have this mind of enlightenment as the view or the basis, then from that we engage naturally in perfect conduct that benefits others. This conduct is referred to as the 6 perfections. The first and foremost of these is transcendent awareness wisdom. Whenever we look into our own minds and we see the qualities of loving kindness and compassion, and we see the faults of negative emotions such as anger and jealousy, then that itself is transcendent awareness wisdom. On the basis of this, then, if we cultivate love for even one person within that relationship, we can practice all of the other 5 perfections. That is to say, when we truly love someone, then we're free of greed and avarice towards them. This is the practice of generosity. The second of the 6 perfections in the list that Rinpoche has given. Likewise, when we truly love someone, we don't wish to do any harm to them at all. That is the practice of morality, the 3rd. 4th, no matter how many difficulties may arise in the relationship, we don't seek to retaliate with anger. This is the practice of patience. 5th, when we continually wish to bring about benefit and happiness to our friend or our loved one, this is the practice of effort or diligence. And finally, when we maintain an unbroken feeling of love towards that person, then that is the practice of meditative stabilization. In this way, in a single relationship of loving kindness, we can practice all of the 6 perfections.
동바치마데 가래지 소소소소를 첨 요구요. 소소소소 첨 용해들이 감자 제요지 제 준비 시랍데 드릉리 정도게 레가테 제고 레가테 제 민사메 딜로된 요구요. 데디 잠로 서래 잠로 건조스므로 오지 건조좀 가봐요. 상계를 넣었다 그래. 화장 드리는 거좀 맥매발에 맥지니 깡바매발에 깡바대니 원래 따뜻한 잡을랭 되는 드리 빼라 원래 이 화장의 시랍 침복 드리 로버레 콩을 남디는 주속에 다 유몽바 빵니 원래 산쪽성 공야 데 남디에 디에 취재래 배나 야 디스 디칼라니네 디 답을 남 효충이 되 개들제래 gen du hibade karere rangla phimbata yinla deve gewalan dembayo ba gewa hibade karere rangla gewa deva yone gewa ba ole dungi de gewa ba ona idana rangla phimbata yinla deva rang dungi le tone yinla toro thap tung de ba ta gen du re ta saje ge chap shere de gen du de re bena 게두지 꼴 사지 건조 좀 참고요래. 게두지는 삼징제요래. 대 사제의 인지 제발이요 말에. 이 게두지 샘 상계래. 디말을 남동 바데 추래. 추는 그 삼징제의 곰네. 곰소나. 다 치는 거 루게두래. 샘 추래. 삼징제래. 지난 3년계도 맞아와지는 양당에도 3년계구나. 누가 주 사지 좀 찾아래. 상계가 저 가요. 상계가 저 세계 담제에 요지 사지 좀 되게 쓰용을 세계 남은 상계 참마 상계로 공화 담아 세계제는 이 상계와 이제 사지 좀 되게 쓰용을 하지. 되는 가서 샘들 지금 보시 봐. 샘 남파다고. 요미 딱히 탈렌데 semna patago sangi 좀 되래 The Koran Ranchok, Randang, Karayo Mare, Kan Zuzuri, Shigo Tomanagiri, oh, Flagom Lan Jodo, Degom Deal Jodo, Shedankin Deal Jodo, some Nigam Lan Jodo. Flat and day you are Karea. Oh, fly about someone peed over it in a large bank down for it. Oh, Sula and Lupa from the Rana, Domingina, and Lupa took the thing in Jay. The Congress of the Joshetan Chumore, Tadori Chumore. That's a new more rich. Oh, that one goes from the thing, that is something you won't be it. They go not that dancing to Chorum Dog. Yeah, get to the and you get to the man, my wall.
So we should understand that of all of these 6 perfections that we engage in, the negative emotion of anger is completely opposed to them. It completely counters all of those beneficial activities. And so we should seek to accomplish others' benefit by engaging in the 6 perfections and purifying our habit of the negative emotions, principal among which is anger. Now, if we truly wish to establish sentient beings in happiness and avoid suffering, then we should engage in effort. When we truly enter the Buddhist path, then we take the vow of refuge. And we take refuge in the 3 jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. When we take the commitment of refuge in these 3 jewels, then we pledge to hold this commitment from this time until fully enlightened Buddhahood is attained. And the way in which we hold that commitment is through the practice of morality. When we take refuge in the Buddha, we should understand the Buddha to be a teacher. He is a teacher who gives sight to the blind, or gives mobility to those who have been crippled. And this is through the transmission of wisdom. The Buddha taught that we should abandon negative emotions and engage in the practice of virtue. These wisdom teachings, then, are the Dharma, the second of the 3 jewels. Now, those who have entered this path of practice, those who have heard and engage in the practice of the Dharma, are the Sangha, or the community of practitioners. And through their activities, they seek to accomplish the benefit and happiness of others and themselves. They seek through their efforts to alleviate the suffering of others and themselves. And the way in which they do this is by engaging in virtue and abandoning negativity. We should see that all 3 of these jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are complete in our own minds. That is to say, when we give rise to loving kindness and compassion, that itself is the Buddha. And when we engage, or when we speak or engage our voices based on this mind of loving kindness and compassion, then our words are the Dharma. And finally, when we engage our bodies with a mind of love, then we become the Sangha. So on an outer level, we can understand these 3 jewels to be Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and on an inner level, we can understand them to be the very nature of our own body, speech, and mind. If again and again we contemplate this and engage in Dharma practice, then eventually we will become the same as the fully enlightened Buddha. This is because we possess the Buddha nature or the enlightened potential. This is inherent in the minds of all beings. It is the seed of enlightenment. All of the Buddhas were first ordinary sentient beings, and through engaging in the practice of Dharma, they purified their negativities and attained fully enlightened Buddhahood. This Buddha nature is completely expansive and free from obstruction, just like the sky. It is like a clear crystal. The mind itself, the Buddha nature, I should say, is completely free from any taint. It has existed with us since time without beginning. It is through cultivating loving kindness and compassion, then, that we can give rise to the qualities of this mind of Buddha nature. This mind is, because it is completely empty and clear, then whatever we habituate in the mind is what arises. If we habituate loving kindness and compassion, we give rise to a sublime deity. If we habituate anger and negativity, then we give rise to a demon. Yet, in either case, the very basis is this pristine, clear mind itself. So if we seek to accomplish others' happiness and benefit through loving kindness and compassion, without doubt we will give rise to all of the enlightened qualities of the deity. It is said that the Buddhas taught 84,000 aggregates of the Dharma, yet within each of these 84,000 are 84,000 subdivisions. Thus, there is no limit to the teachings of the Dharma. They are like a huge mountain. If we wish to engage in the practice of the Dharma, it is difficult for us to understand this multitude of teachings. Yet, all of the Buddha's teachings can be condensed into two essential points, and that is the two types of bodhicitta. Now, when we maintain vigilant, mindful awareness of the thoughts that are arising in the mind, that itself is ultimate bodhicitta. This ultimate bodhicitta is the nature of mind. When we wish to see the nature of mind, it is necessary to have a great accumulation of merit to do so. And it is for this reason, then, that we practice conventional bodhicitta. This is giving rise to a mind of love and compassion. When we hold with awareness a mind of love and compassion, we give rise to a warmth that melts the frozen mind of self-clinging that has been accumulated since beginningless time through karmic conditioning. As we give rise to love and compassion, this frozen accumulation begins to soften and to melt. And on the basis of that, we recognize the nature of mind. The nature of mind is no different than the mind of all of the Buddhas. And when this is seen, then enlightenment is experienced. And so, although we already have present in our mind streams the Buddha nature, in order to recognize that, we need to engage in the practice of loving kindness and compassion. Thus, of the two, conventional and ultimate bodhicitta, the actual practice of conventional bodhicitta is most significant for us now.
Telo Thoma Yankle Baratanida, Thoma Namba Sanjay Pake, Manam Kata, Sebi, Deva, Devijata, Debar Churchi, Devi Juk Karere, Shirabri. Oh, Ranga Timbi Shirab Sao, Ranga Rasam Rago, Rang Semineta Hakwa the Pella. Dere, oh, Ranga Seminana Sanjay or Pena. See Lama, Nangalama, Nishikado, Tor Nangalamare, Nangalama Sir Timbi Shiram Dere, Shiram de Yona. Oh, David John did it, then Mayuana get it, Kawados on a leper. Shiramina, Dumita, Dumi, Jokare, Tapa, Maple, Raman, Maple, all it. Maybe Juna, Chang, Tamana, Bolas, but Shiram made it to me, take it all to. I simply the Dumi, the Dumi, your Maripa, the Tower Hoji, the my Shiram to the Dimber Church, some Tangni. Did he Shiram with Takaris? Oh, Tanga. Shiram like a New Year. Gongo, that can't have Gongo. That's superior structure, Toma Amara Gongo, right?
So we pray that all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. This is the basis of all of the practice that we do, generating this motivation. But we should ask, what is happiness and the cause of happiness? It is transcendent awareness. It is mindful awareness, being cognizant at all times of the thoughts that are arising in the mind, and through the power of that cognition, liberating those thoughts one after the next. When we can do this, then we see the Buddha nature that is inherent in our own minds. This is the inner Lama. It is said that there are both inner and outer gurus or lamas. The outer guru is the one who offers the Dharma teachings to us, who shows us the cause of happiness and the cause of suffering. The inner guru is the recognition of the Buddha nature in our own minds. Of these two, inner and outer, the inner guru is the principal one. When we have this kind of wisdom and awareness, then we can truly give rise to the wish that all beings be free from suffering, that all beings have just the kind of happiness that we have, that all beings experience just this kind of wisdom and clarity of mind. When we look at the situation of beings deluded by ignorance and see them creating the causes of suffering, drinking alcohol and taking drugs and so forth, then we spontaneously give rise to this mind of love and compassion, truly seeking their benefit and happiness and freedom from suffering. It is for this reason, then, that we contemplate again and again every sentient being as our kind parents with whom we have a profound connection.
Melide Madele Tata Party Namshide, Ole Kasheke, that Dunepan Rato, Yatina Dune Chatum Mare, Pardon, Lord Manguna Wala, Nima Dentari in a Shiko, Shivituma, Yore, that's a Nangita, Pardon, and so on. Yore, you may Tawan, you party Namshiding Amak, Melido, Train Yori. Amar Kable Kareo, Jata Kareo, Rita Kareo, Tatamana Yetama Samu Tampore, Guvta and Goto, Luguta, Lulana Target Domain, Save Seva to the young Tanya to Samotana. Oh, Ama Mevati, oh, maybe Chiman, Ali Muni, Johnny Ama, the Chase, some of the children, Tatu Muni Seva, Lepio, Bella, Dama Jumpton against Sane, all Tambo Amina, Melusin and Katin Chimbo. Tata sa Seva Sakol, Seva Sakan Amari, Ama the Tragedy, Cemetery like a Pama, Musu Yonatala, Kuzap Shodoyoba, Yadana to Samotana. Oh, Mucho, Juchoma, Chiridoma, Amartela, Majida Pena, Pecha Jakartela, Amate Gaviori. There's one of the Tosam Jimachaba Dokoyore. Then it was Amaragomore, Paman.
We should consider well that if we give rise to a mind of anger, this is the cause of many sufferings. There are people whose mind streams become so ruled by anger and negativity that they even take their own lives. In this way, then, they think that they may end their suffering. Yet the truth is that even after the consciousness leaves the body and it enters the transition phase between this life and the next, they still endure a host of sufferings. In fact, each 7 days they relive the experience of dying. And so in this way, we should truly seek to alleviate sufferings through the practice of the profound Dharma, and begin then by generating a mind of love for our own parents who have sacrificed so much and endured so much hardship for our sake. It is because of their kindness that we have our present precious human form. It is through their kindness that we have received an education, clothing, food, and so forth. When we contemplate well the kindness of our mothers who have given us this body, we will give rise to a mind of such gratitude and respect and devotion that tears will come to our eyes. When we have this kind of fruition, it is like we have extracted the nectar from a flower and transformed it into honey. When we have this feeling of true love and respect for our parents, then we have received the full fruition of the gift that they have offered us. First, they have offered us this precious human form, and second, they have become the basis for our giving rise to a mind of extraordinary love and compassion. Even if someone were to give us a great deal of money, there could be no more precious gift than that which has been given to us by our parents. And so if we contemplate in this way, then we have the basis for deeply cherishing not only our parents of this life, but all sentient beings are parents of countless former lifetimes.
Then Amada, Tobo, Tomo, Kala, Zero, Tilla, Zero, the Chili coming. Oh, that day, you come to September, your Pama, Zeba, Toboma, Zeba, take down your money, we need some nearly some. Didn't you get a part on the 10 chapter or the Bena? Jade, didn't you some optimal chart or which is him that I have a dog, Chadder. Oh, 3 days some dog chimbo. 3 part that so military top now. You don't think of making it, sort of a gigging rate. Sort of gigging now you double leg gigging, shirap chimbo tamjig, and double leg melon, you think that shirap chimbo tamjig, take care of it. Not Hickson but gigging tamjig, you think it's in a keba. She looked gigging last of a car in a shop gigging tamjig. They got this some Jimachabari, some that I go gigging tamjig, they are young. Some you may have oh, tea, Tony, oh, that Jack gave the Pama last of a did so different say you did when I young. So like Jacob that I was a mena. You might take a langa, Kali, among the two. Better cut out your Kawakari, ya, Jacob Lambda the Minata, Metamakan and Muisha, that I was a burning gun and killing Mamma Shison, or me some Shison. Then I did Jacob on the garden symbol, some Jimachabari. Muma Jacob will watch his yards on the time, that I was Jacob Jokin, Conto Gang and Mambo Javity, pay Machu, they are here. Three dealing of the Tricari, oh, Tanzabel and Jacob so sort of did it. The Nicari, Bassels of Chat, the road some here. Three Pama, but take your money. Then there is some. Three Jima Oman, Bemi home, the oh, come soon the same things and best send the shock about Chade. Take a tata, take a pinky or the mount while I choose our luck about Doctor. After time we need Jacob, Mimana, Sawa luck about Doctor, Supo, Jimbo, Samba, Zambo, Rodan, Doctor, top time, some young, the dream of Yasama, the top to a chakra. You know, so to listen about young Tata, 3 young head. That make a head, party the Miss Zokti Parla. Make a head can eat your tongue, Jacala pay the Gachetaba. Make a head on the car, Monsieur May, don't bend a Calamo day or carry the sun or head. Make a head, Provani, Cala, maybe a Romoja day or Commander Bonti, from the Yandua. Kashi, Jacala pay, don't talk to the Gagari, simply. Three jet of a honey, shook up with some shut up for it. Don't care for it.
So in this way, when we contemplate the kindness of our mothers, or our friends and lovers, people with whom we are intimately connected in this life, then gradually we should extend the feeling of love that we have for them to all beings of the 3 spheres of existence, thinking that among them there is not one who has not at one time been our kind parent or lover. In this way, we can give rise to a love and compassion that completely pervades the 3 spheres of existence and touches all sentient beings. Then the mind becomes extremely powerful. At the present time, our minds are hindered. It is as if they are frozen by this strong habit of clinging to the self. Yet, when we give rise to love and compassion, the warmth of that love begins to melt this frozen mind of self-clinging. In this way, then, we can truly give rise to a very powerful mind wishing to accomplish others' benefit. So first and foremost, we should contemplate the kindness of our parents. And second, we should contemplate the kindness of our teachers, those who have educated us in worldly knowledge as well as in transcendent knowledge. It is teachers who give sight to the blind, teachers who open our ignorant eyes. Not only do they show us how to survive in the world, but they also train our minds, and especially those who teach us the Dharma give us an inconceivable gift. And so, in this way, we should generate a mind of gratitude to all of those who have educated us. And finally, we should generate a mind of respect and gratitude towards the leaders of our nation. We should understand that through their activities, they seek to bring about benefit and the common good. Even though we may have received an excellent education from our teachers, if we did not have the support that has been created by our government, then there would be no stability in the country, and we would endure many hardships. And so in this way, we should think again and again of the difficulties endured by the leaders of our country for our benefit and others' benefit. If we truly and deeply contemplate this, we will begin to cry, thinking of their great kindness for us. So as we consider this, then we will truly give rise to a mind of great love, devotion, and respect for our parents, for our teachers, and for the leaders of our country. On the basis of this kind of training, then our mind will become exceedingly strong and stable. Our beneficial intention will pervade the three spheres of existence. We will seek to benefit all beings without exception. Even now, in our present awareness, we can observe people who are very powerful and engage in activities that truly bring about others' benefit. And likewise, we can see people who are beggars, they're addicted to drugs and alcohol, and they're completely reliant on others for their support. Both of these extremes come from the mind that they have cultivated. And so in this way, we should cultivate great wisdom and really generate qualities of faith, gratitude, and respect, and a motivation to be of benefit to all beings.
주자 명운함 섬는 정도 자와 탐진 제발 마토바도 딱발 지네 저거 저는 누가 생기 탐제 딱 보자고 근데 모든 것을 패면 딱 보자고 요래 딘티감이 영절을 거 봐래 근데 자자가 말자 자고 좀 거들 탐송에 대전에 살지도 때에서 세철 좀 남도 참 인바에 대나게 다들 약속론이 정도 다 봐도 참한데 그거 드니티 미소모는 자치모래 제 드니디 라딩한 아니리 드니 람 잡을 라다라 망보요래 람 포지 담기 기내적은 그래 마주리요 말에 사탐체 쏘다 그래 인지 제와래 그 제와래 좀 더구나 어네 드니 마니는 마니는 마주리 많이 배는 상대 비교해 근데 만들어 탑 데레 드니 참에 만들어 드니 따로 드니 잡을 능이 작함지 담체 대고나 코로메가 용거래 실제는 로고나 이 코로메가 동을 기내들을 라요 말에 참이라는 소리가 마늘하고 로나 서와이노 남바이노 서이는 제아무고 지기요 말에 이 뭐야래 접진 좀 많이 그래 근데 나는 세지 사와까지 해보나 접진 좀 많이 chukulongo trukatene, that meaning in the Jipin Roma Mango Yore, Kaji Lopta Tokoyore, Kaji Manga Pimpa the Deva, Gine the Jipin Roma Yeleka Mango Sega, Sasan the Sword Tavere, Tinity Same, Lorna, Tinit said that as some near people your head. Tini, Dina, the Gosungri, Inez, Congo Mona Davia, Gosungri, Congo mean the make it Tonse, Mite. Kapaton Sarsu de Bada, show the Monanta, they go so many Penna, data you go last of what did home and control me like that, never tell my bella, pay people you read. Think they take us some to home, that he did it to you to draw them here. Masafai, you are my corner, by your my people that they were carrying, so to jump for it. Like a simple.
So, I have distributed a photograph this evening of a statue of the self-arisen Chenrezig, or the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion. This statue was spontaneously manifest at the time of the Tibetan king Songtsen Gampo, who himself was an emanation of Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion. He was told by the Buddhas, Chenrezig was told by the Buddhas to manifest in the country of Tibet for the benefit of the beings there. And so he appeared as King Songtsen Gampo and has since appeared in many other in many other forms in Tibet. And up until the present time, he has continued to manifest there in order to protect sentient beings. Now, the Tibetan king Songtsen Gampo had two consorts, the princess from China and the princess from Nepal. And at the time of the king's passing, the two consorts both dissolved physically into him, and he physically dissolved into this statue of Chenrezig. And so it is indeed a very precious statue. Since 1983, I've been distributing these pictures everywhere I go, all over the world, to many beings. And simply through seeing this, then, you establish a great connection with the deity of great compassion, known as Chenrezig in Tibetan, or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit. You should understand that although there are countless deities, Chenrezig is like the life force of them all, because he is the very nature of love. Chenrezig's mantra is written on the side of the card, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, and this mantra is endowed with countless benefits. I've also distributed a brief 4-line prayer to the deity Chenrezig, and his mantra is also printed on here. If you engage then in the recitation of this mantra, it will become a cause for the purification of all negative emotions, principal among which is anger. And then on the opposite side of the card is Atisha's supplication to Tara. She likewise is an emanation of great loving kindness and compassion. In this worldly realm, there are countless emanations of Tara. She has manifest as the 3 kayas, and in this human realm appears as a nirmanakaya, or an emanation being, in order to accomplish the benefit and happiness of all sentient beings. So Chenrezig is a male emanation, Tara a female emanation, but both are the very nature of loving kindness. If we give rise to a mind of devotion to them, it will be a cause of benefit in this and future lives. Finally, I have distributed this liberation through sight. On it are 2 mantras of the deity Chenrezig, and it is said that through the aspiration prayers made by Chenrezig, whoever sees these mantras or walks underneath them will have the accumulation of negativities from countless eons purified. This is true for human beings, for animals, for beings of the spirit realm. Whoever comes into contact with this mantra will experience the benefit thereof. There are many spirit beings who continually give rise to anger, and it is said that through seeing this, their anger will be spontaneously pacified and they will not do harm to sentient beings. So these 3 precious things I offer to you together with my wishes of auspicious good fortune, and I encourage you not to make false dualistic distinctions, thinking, oh, I'm a Buddhist, this person is not a Buddhist, but rather to see that which is common among all sentient beings. That is the Buddha nature, or the mind of enlightenment. If you can engage in practice that brings about the actual benefit and happiness of others, then this is the most significant thing. In this context, there's no distinction to be made among the different religious traditions.
강나 심기 탐지 피시 제와요 미지이나 오 제상 촉천발이 강나 요나 사는 요 나와나 달라는 잡수치 섬소리 샘제 받게 거래 강 심기 요모마 투고 빼나 대목징이나 대탐지 파마마지 버지 심기 hinge리 대탐지 동의를 보고 hinge제 거래 hin기 대바요도 hin기다 hinge지 hin기마도 발마도라 감수 심기 찌요 말해 드리기를 사지 좀 이제 송부하는 게 샘들 납선 뉴샘 록다섬 마대 거래 드리 샘도 짱 마대 거래 현난기 드리 상기 라오요래 가지고 배니 담지 송노래 가래래 샘기 담지 상기를 가지고 통나 다주 상기요래 드리 송노라 샘기 담지 상기를 가지고 통나 다 드리 소소 상기요래 배나 hin 담에도 상화래야 배나 라고 말해. 근데 좀 지나면서 많이 배우는데 이런 이거 보면 많이 차서 냠도 양호지 무슨 남들이 민지 kontrol 매와래. 제대로 용화래. 되는 거지. 이제 딱 발전이 좀 많은 가지고 로나제 방어지.
So there is one point of heart advice that I would like to offer to you this evening. There are countless religious traditions to be found in this worldly realm, and we have a habit of seeing one as being good and another as being bad, and this dualistic distinction causes a great deal of suffering. If there is someone who has a mind of loving kindness, who truly wishes to be of benefit to others, then that person is a bodhisattva, regardless of their tradition. And in this way, we should really see sentient beings as Buddhas. Those who are accomplishing others' welfare and benefit are extremely precious. When we, in this way, think about others whose minds are deluded by negative emotions and ignorance, we spontaneously give rise to a mind of love and compassion. We truly wish to liberate them from their suffering and ignorance. So thinking in this way, we can appreciate all of those who are working to free others from suffering, regardless of the language they speak or the tradition in which they practice. We can truly give rise to compassion for beings who are deluded by ignorance. We should then seek to avoid all false views that create unnecessary distinctions, and we should seek to avoid a mind wishing to do harm to others. In this way, we can come to see all sentient beings as Buddhas. And it was taught by the Buddha himself that with this pure view of recognizing beings as Buddhas, our own enlightenment is close at hand. This is a very precious teaching. And so I would like to request that you please recite together with me 3 times the mantra of Chenrezig, Om Mani Padme Hum, pray, with the motivation that all beings in this worldly realm become completely free of anger and that they abide in peace and happiness. So please let us read together the prayer on the small white card. This is the side without the picture on it. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 Chakravartin kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. I prostrate to the Venerable Chenrezig, who shows whatever is needed to subdue those to be subdued. Om.